Okay. Hi, everyone. Oh. A little bit of an adjustment.
It's kind of like a flashlight, so that's why it's straight.
Okay, I'm talking straight into it. Is that good? Okay.
Am I in your way?
Can we please give it up for Daryl for hosting this awesome event? Okay, hi everyone, my name's Mandy. I'm speaking tonight because I've known these two schmucks for 30 years. And while that makes me feel quite old, that must make them feel ancient. So I am very happy to cite that statistic.
Can you hear down there?
Yeah, it's good now.
That's okay. I'm just gonna keep going. Here we go. A few weeks ago, I was at my father-in-law's 70th birthday in London, and I was speaking to some ladies that age about my trip for this celebration, and they asked how old my dad and my godfather were turning. And they said, oh, it must be a milestone. You know, you're coming back to California for this birthday. And my husband, who's British, his voice flashed in my head. And he said, Mandy, at the party, just say they're turning 70. Don't go there. And much like my father and my godfather, I thought, nah. And so I said, they're turning 69. And one woman grabbed my arm and said, oh, does 69 have some sort of significance in Judaism? No, I said. And the other lady said, well, good for them. And she grabbed my arm rather aggressively. 69 years ago, around this date, these two knuckleheads were born in New York. Mark grew up in the burbs on Primrose Avenue with his brother Jerry, who's here tonight, and his parents, Rose and Dave, being mischievous and wreaking havoc, likely giving his loving mother quite a few headaches. You know, like the time he escaped from his hospital bed, age 12, and hopped in a taxi to get home. You know, as you do.
Normal stuff.
Steve grew up in Queens with his brother Donald and his parents Beatrice, otherwise known as Honey, and Raymond. He blossomed under the watchful and encouraging eye of Honey, who taught him how to be mischievous and wreak havoc. Not openly, but rather under the surface, you know, like a swan. He was doing things like tricking Orthodox rabbis and teaching a good poker face. Mark and Steve met during the sweltering summer of 69.
69.
Woo, 69. At Camp Troopin in Connecticut. It was, as they say, love at first sight, as they recognized a kindred irreverence in one another, and camp became their stomping ground. Don't worry, I'm told the kids had fun too. After Jewish Christmases and James Brown gigs alike, they followed one another to California. 3 wives between them at this point. And settled eventually in San Diego. Going away together on conventions and winter meetings to plan those conventions with their 2 good friends, Ralph and Powder. For 44 years now, they've been doing this. They are known as the boys, or rather 3/3 boys plus the mom. I think at age 69, boys certainly rings true. They both believe firmly in and have a love of education and have pursued this, with my dad down in the trenches and Steve effecting change from the top down. Mark did more than teach equations at Vista, but he did that very well, except for his perplexing inability to draw a cube, which he got out of by asking students to draw it on the board for him. He can't draw a cube. He was an ASB leader developing the classic air bands program at Vista, probably because, like me, his singing voice is basically unbearable. He announced many a sporting event, always doing the requisite voice exercises before, always ensuring he knew how to pronounce every name on both teams' rosters. He coached girls soccer, and he has always been a champion of women. Steve started out his teaching history in Connecticut. One day, my dad and Powder showed up with bags full of grapes, you know, as you do, and started pelting Steve with them while he was teaching, resulting in a class-wide grape fight. Steve then went on to be a guidance counselor in San Diego, and as you can tell from the decorations present here tonight, he was an excellent role model. He became principal at LCC after I had left the school. But of course, he took the time to check out my truancy record, calling me while I was at university to shout, "Mandy, 52 period absences your senior year? Impressive!" And he's the only guy I know who retired not once, not twice, but 3 times. Yeah. They both love travel. My dad is more of an admirer of the natural world. Once on a trip to Aspen, 10 minutes into our hike, we happened upon a tiny babbling brook, literally like a stream of pee. My dad posted up and said he was going to meditate and that he found the water soothing. My Aunt Linda, who's also here tonight, pointed out that we were hiking to a gorgeous body of water and surrounded by mountains, but he was fine where he was. On the way back, we found him reading a book that he'd hidden in his shorts. He clearly never even intended to hike, but he was happy all the same. Steve is more of a participant, globe-trotting across continents and sending me obnoxiously beautiful pictures from around the world. Sometimes I wish he was a bit more technologically inept, especially when I'm participating in a new hobby of mine, which is watching the rain fall against the gray sky in London. And he sends me a Koh Samui beach photo. I love it. It's great. Food, or as they call it, fud, is important to these two. Steve is broadening his cooking horizons continually, and Mark knows his way around a barbecue. My dad is what some would call a picky eater. He'll tolerate 5 vegetables, maybe 6 at a push. He once made the argument to me, and this is a beautiful piece of work here. He compared tricking a vegetarian into eating meat into tricking him into eating vegetables. A notion so ludicrous, it might just be genius. To his credit, he has been eating healthier lately, which I'm psyched about, and it turns out one can teach an old dog new tricks. And that's not an insult. My dad's best friend is a dog. A recent addition to his diet has been blackberries. "You can eat blackberries with your cereal in the morning," he proclaimed to me earnestly via a phone call one day. I'll have to stop myself here because when it comes to matters of nutrition, my dad can sound, well, a little Trumpian. So I'm gonna Atkins my way out of this one and move on. I'm not gonna get too much into Steve's weird eating, like how he neatly piles his food into separate mounds where possible. Or how there's a high likelihood he's gonna order something that would be a really comfortable fit on the kids' menu if Daryl's not around. I guess all I really need to say is that when Steve eats with Daryl, he'll have what she's having, literally. They share food. They share their food all the time. They sit next to each other and they share their food. I come home a lot because I live in London. And every single time I see Steve, my lovely godfather, he likes to tell me the same story. And I see it coming because he tells me that story in the exact same way. He goes, "Hey, Mandy. Hey, Mandy." And I say, "Oh, yes. Hey, Chunk. By the way, to myself and my sister, Steve is Chunky. It's something we came up with as kids, and the story's not that interesting, so I'm just going to leave it there." I say, "Chunk, we've been talking for half an hour. You don't have to go, hey, Mandy." And he continues, "Hey, Mandy, remember the time you escaped from your house after your parents grounded you and you fled to the temple social dance? And we found out where you were and we thought, really? She's at temple? She ran away to go to a Jewish dance? Okay. So me and your dad, we go and we get you. And we spot you across the shul and you ran. You saw us and you ran from us." Now, thinking about the two of them running after me and how scared I was, I just can't imagine it now. 2 stoners lumbering after me on a pimple-ridden dance floor. It's too good. It's just too good. Anyway, what gets me most about this story is how much Chunky loves telling it to me. Every freaking time I come home, I get a hey, Mandy, and he feigns that he's reminding me of a bygone era never spoken of, when in reality, he loves telling that story because he likes to watch me squirm. And I do, every time. And he loves putting me on the spot, a lovable yet lamentable trait he and my dad both share. Now it's my turn. Some of you will oddly know this, but at the BBC, I am the voice of the lifts. I mean elevators, going up, going down. Get the heck out. Stop. My dad's been to my office many, many times now, and every time he beelines to that lift. My colleagues know him now because you don't really forget Mark Herman. Someone might stop him on the way there and say, "Oh, hi Mark, it's nice to see you." And my dad's like, yes, you too. I need to get to that lift. And he has to ride it up and down a few times over and over again with a lunatic grin on his face, scaring my coworkers who don't even know that I'm the voice of the lift. But he makes sure that they know it. And I'm not a voice recording artist or a professional elevator voice for hire. It's just a fun thing that I did. But my dad is so proud of me that you'd think it was my life's ambition. It's a mark that I made. That I accomplished something or that I made an impression. Every single thing I do, he takes seriously, whether I do or not. I think it's resolutely inarguable that Mark and Steve have and will continue to make their mark on, well, everyone they meet. Whether or not it's the student my dad runs into at a reggae concert who wants to hang and dance with him, or the customer service phone person who has to listen to his Larry David style rant. Or the student who mentions to Steve how awesome a robotics program is at her school, which he implemented years ago. Or the friends who come in from Russia because they met he and Daryl in Antarctica and became fast friends. Woo! Just like when I was born, Dad, you're always close by if I need you, and you'll fiercely go to bat for me no matter what. And Chunky, you're always around the corner or in the dugout, or rather, ready to sub in off the bench, like you did when you married me at my wedding. For me, and no doubt for many others here tonight, these two are educators, sages even, for how to be awesome at life. These aren't two good men. They are truly remarkable humans. So please raise your glasses and toast to Mark and Steve! Up here, please, to lead in a rendition of Happy Birthday, because as mentioned previously, I have a terrible singing voice.